You have Patrick Findaro here, co-founder at Vetted Biz. Excited to have Brian Cook on, who's the founder and CEO of StretchMed. Brian, thanks so much for joining today. So
Great
tell me a little
here.
bit how you entered in the physical therapy stretching industry, as well as decided to franchise your concept.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess I've been in boutique fitness for a bunch of years. I think going on 28 years now. So seeing a lot happen in the industry the last decade. A family friend had taken me out for coffee 2015 to ask me about the stretching industry, and knew I was in boutique fitness franchising. At the time, never heard of it. I was like, wow, I've never heard of that. That's interesting. He said it's happening out of California. So we talked it through and said, it sounds great. I said, if you open it in a wealthy demographic, just really great area, you should probably, I'm sure you'll be fine. So then we kind of went our separate ways. I didn't know this guy well. I only know him. I grew up playing hockey with a guy, and it's this guy's sister's husband. So anyway, the funny irony in it is that then I saw Stretch Lab starting to take off, 2017, 18, Stretch Zone taking off pretty big. I was like, wow, this is interesting. Back in my personal training days, I used to stretch one of the partners of the Red Sox. I stretched him for 30 minutes and trained him for 30 minutes. But never did I think stretching would become its own thing. So I was like, wow, interesting. I think I'm getting into the stretching business. So did a ton of due diligence. So I flew around the country. I went to all the concepts: Stretch Lab, Stretch Zone, Stretch U, Joe Stretch, Limber. And the funny thing with this company called Limber is in Boston, they have a location. I went in, got a stretch, left. And then I got a text message from the family friend of back in 2015, said, hey, Brian, I saw you went in for a stretch. And I was like, oh, hey, Rob, what's up? And then just funny, but he went home 5 of them. But I never knew. We never followed up after that initial conversation. So, the due diligence helped me see that it was cool, but nothing, there wasn't really a system. So what I saw across my research is that no one had created a standard volume of stretching to happen in 50 minutes. It was too much autonomy for the therapist. So I was like, I don't really like that. So we came back to Boston, got the first protocol done. At the time, practicing with my girlfriend at the time for a while, which is great. And I knew we had something when she stretched me out, and it was better than the $100 I paid for several stretches during my due diligence. So then StretchMed got Tony out.
And I do like it. It was a great experience, but thinking about it, like, it was kind of willy-nilly in terms of like the methodology and like how it was like every time was like so different stretcher to stretcher, where there must be like a better systematized approach to like this type of physical therapy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I understand what everyone's doing. They're trying to customize everything, but frankly, everyone's body moves essentially the same way. And it's like a workout. If you go to 2 personal trainers and one does twice the work in the same 15-minute time, you got to leave the gym and say, wow, that was a fantastic workout. So what we did is we created a head to toe 36 stretch routine that we give the therapist, there's 20 things they can P&F inside of that 50-minute stretch that it can be customized. And, P&F is just an industry term for, it's really a hold. We're going to get you to end range. You're going to fire the muscle. Then we're going to relax, and then we can go deeper into the stretch. Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So it's just a industry term. So we created a lot of volume in our stretch with some customization. So we can work on your shoulder, your hip, your back, your SI joint, whatever ailment you have, but still stretch you head to toe. 5 stretches on the neck. It's pretty awesome.
So tell me on the business side, did you acquire those stores? Did you open up your own concept? How was StretchMed? How did it come to fruition?
Yeah, no, great question. So StretchMed is just from scratch. So starting StretchMed helped me really, my creativity kind of really helped me realize that's my passion. I love creating everything from the logo, the name. There was 100 names I looked at before it came up. So everything from the build out, the tables, the sequencing, the financial model, the whole thing kind of from scratch. And then we opened the first location in Wellesley, Massachusetts, and we signed up 100 people in a 6-week pre-sale, then another 100 people in the first 2 months we're open. So really good proof of concept. And then the first franchisee we had, she actually was a franchisee of one of our fitness brands. And I flipped her a 25-minute R&D stretch just to practice, see what you think. And she started stretching out her fitness clients. And then she comes to me and says, I want to buy a franchise. And I'm like, we don't even have a franchise yet. So, well, I want to buy one. I'm like, all right. So when we opened up the first location, she was only a month behind us. So as I would learn something, I would meet with her on Sunday at Cafe Nero and just be like, all right, here's the play, the sale, whatever the strategy was. And then
I think that's how the first few franchisees should come, where it's someone because you're evolving. Like StretchMed's still evolving. So to have someone, especially across the country, that's like your first or second franchisee, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs as you fine tune your system and processes. And if it's someone, especially that asked you to be a franchisee, they're going to be much more willing to kind of accept that roller coaster ride that's hopefully going in the upward trajectory.
Exactly.
And
cool.
Tell me a little bit about, how much it costs to open up a StretchMed. How do franchisees make money too? Yeah.
So our model is about $150,000 to open. We've done pretty well getting leasehold improvements. So we have a couple of the 25 stores we have, we've gotten 2 or 3 turnkey build-outs done from the landlords, which is kind of nice. But about 150,000, and then basically like our item, I'll tell you, our item 19, our current item 19, we have, I think it's roughly like 7,000 a month profit was the average profit across the subset of 5 locations we had at the time. Very cool. So pretty decent for that type of investment. And our owners are all operating semi-passive. So they have other careers and jobs. And we run our models by developing a manager. And, my push to my owners after doing this for a million years, it's kind of like, all right, really create wealth, you have to develop people. And if you don't develop people, you're really buying a job. So let's get really clear about it. You're going to develop one manager. That manager is going to develop everybody else. If you start getting in the weeds with part-time therapists, you're doomed. So find that rockstar manager, rockstar assistant manager. So that's how we set our stores up. 2 full-timers, manager, assistant manager, right out of the gate, run the pre-sale, light up the market with what StretchMed is, do a ton of pop-ups, free stretches for everybody. And then you build your book that first month you're open. And then after those 2 core full-timers, just maintain 80% utilization. So what I love about our model is that it's so small and lean that you only need the 2 employees to be profitable. So run the game, positive cash flow, get to 80% utilization, then just grow your payroll by roughly 6-8 hours a week and maintain 80% utilization. Then you just slowly, go all the way to capacity. And rather than opening a large studio, we open up smaller studios and then you can just open another one 2-3 miles away if you reach capacity at the first one. And I think that's the biggest problem in business. I call it the supply demand shift, is that you got to make sure whenever you're opening, there's more demand for the supply you have, period, the end. And if there isn't, you get a long battle ahead of you.
Yeah. And I like how you said that you can always open up another one. Like even famous brands like Chick-fil-A that focus a lot on the culture and cultivating staff. I talked to a franchisee of one of the locations here in Miami, and when they first opened, there just wasn't much awareness of their concept down here in Miami. But sure enough, he's opening up his second location like 1.5 miles down the road. So, get that to capacity, and then, you can always open up a second one.
Exactly. And you can't, and the other thing I see when I look at brands, I look at what they're doing is, to me, I look at there's 5 or 6 things you have to get right. Number 1 is you pick the right owner. Number 2 is you got to pick the right territory. 3, pick the right location within that territory. Then it's negotiate the right lease, and you mess that up, you're in trouble. Then it's hire the right manager, hire the right assistant manager. Get those right, really hard to fail. It's when a competitor concept opened up in Massachusetts, where essentially StretchMed Country, we have like 17 locations, and they opened in a town that we wouldn't allow someone to open it. And if you and what I call it is, that poor franchise owner probably called up the franchisor and said, I live here, I want to open a franchise. And they said, sure, that'll be $40,000. So this poor guy opens up a location. It's in it's one of those nice town centers that's half empty because they thought it was going to develop. It didn't. And then to make matters worse, one of the employees came into one of our locations for an interview, and the owners calls up and said, "Well, let's look at the non-compete." And it's a Florida non-compete that all the employees in Massachusetts are signing, and it's unsettling because this franchise owner has no idea what he kind of got into. Wrong location, wrong territory, wrong location, and now all the employees are signing unenforceable non-competes.
And I know going after that
many
anyways,
states are
non-compete, so it's like going to be a moot point.
Yeah, and they're going to disappear at some point. But in Massachusetts, 2018, they did a big overhaul. But to me, as long as they're viable, it's still good. Even it's just a deterrent. Not that it matters much. It's going to prevent like a therapist from crossing the street with 40 clients or something like that. That's really the idea of it.
Practice.
Exactly. So, but
compensation
anyway,
on the manager side, because that's such a key employee. Is it like, 70-80% base salary and then there's performance-based compensation?
Yeah, we keep relooking at that, and this is a great topic because I feel like there's a whole new employee out there, and that my mistake starting StretchMed initially was this 50-hour work week, which frankly is antiquated. So 40 hours today is 50 hours 10 years ago. So we're no longer we're a 40-hour week model. It's like right off the bat. It's a physical job, and it's just that this new crop of employees aren't going to trade time for money, and it's really smart. It's interesting. They really value their free time, and that's cool. So we're like 40 hours a week, and we're now working at how do we keep paying them more and more. And our managers are getting a base salary, typically $60,000, with bonus potential that gets them 80, 90, even upwards of 100,000. But the key thing we're pushing to our franchise owners is make it clear to these managers that you have unlimited wealth potential because we're in the business of developing people. I'll help you. Can open up 100 locations, but you're going to run them, not me. I'm going to help you. I'm going to support you. But if you can then develop an assistant manager who then can develop a whole staff of stretch therapists, and we've happy customers, happy employees, and we're profitable, we do the second one. And then the third one. And that manager is like, wow. So that's vision. So I always talk about like it starts with vision. And if you get really clear on your vision and you make it clear to your team that you can grow them infantile, you won't lose them. It's when you don't paint the picture of something a lot bigger than what you're currently doing.
They don't have room to grow.
They just jump to the next thing.
And I think
exactly. I remember one of my first job at a health club when I was like 20 years old during college, and I immediately figured out I had no room to grow. And that's what people do. I walked in, the manager had been there 20 years, and she formerly was the receptionist. And they had 2 clubs. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to go that direction. So then I built a personal training business within that gym. And I built this killer personal training business. I was the fitness director. And then it led to opening my own studio. But our people come to us and they're going to size up what their potential is. And it's more than money. It's growth. So we push that a lot. And one of our early owners already has four StretchMeds. And just over like 2.5 years, I think they're at maybe 3 years, they're on their 4th location, which is pretty exciting.
In addition to operating these StretchMeds,
the husband-wife, it's a husband-wife team, and she was a member of our very first location, which is pretty exciting. And she got like an IntraStretch card on her window of her car. So I'm like, it works. It not only sells customers, it sells franchises. And then she recently just quit her job as a dental hygienist for 40 years. So now she's doing it full time. Great people person, really good
after like 3-4 units.
Yeah, and I kind of told them I made it a condition at the once they acquired these other 2 stores, I'm like, all right, we got to you need to be boots on the ground to make sure the HR piece is buttoned up.
That's well said. I like how people can ease into it, because that's a big thing that we evaluate at Vetted Biz. Like, what's your time worth? And I talk to a lot of people that they're making $250K, and to work additional hours, it's going to be at a higher rate than their $250,000 pay. So it's like, it's really got to be worth it, and be super mindful of your time. And I think there's a lot of franchise opportunities that you can take a step back to take a step forward. But it's nice that you can kind of run a StretchMed in parallel without foregoing, the 250K to take a pretty sizable step back, where, it can run its course over 2 years, 3 years, to then make sense for someone that's a higher income earner to potentially jump all in if it makes sense, if that's what they want to be doing.
Yeah. I look at that as, the way I look at that approach is, return on time. And then it's like, okay, open up one StretchMed and ping the market, see what it's going to take, to run that.
So you don't sell like 10 packs,
and then from that,
where someone just
no, none of that. Ours are really 1, 2, 3. And the cool thing is, once you get 1, 2, 3 open, I know everyone gets really focused on close to home, but once you figure out what this is, it doesn't matter where you open it. Because, I always tell stories for me now at this point, I'd open up in Miami or California or Illinois, living in Puerto Rico and Boston, because I'm not going into it. I'm going to develop the right people that can go into it. So when you get really clear about, we're in the business of developing people, and to your point, why would you be the manager when you can pay a manager $60,000 a year?
I think the only exception would be you're in your 20s and you haven't quite hit it yet, and your parents are going to seed this investment.
Exactly. So we look at it as like, our franchise owners are analysts. We're analysts. We study dashboards. We understand our numbers, and we develop people. We don't be any one of the positions to run a StretchMed. We're just the really the entrepreneur that are organizing talent. We build the model. We hire the therapist. We light up the marketing in the front end. We make sure the sales process being followed. Make sure there's client fulfillment, results happening, and then you start building those lifers. We call those lifers. Like I'm a StretchMed lifer. I would go in once a week forever because I need it. 52 years old. CrossFitter, former hockey player. So it's kind of like,
there's a lot of value
stretching
to it.
Is what I need.
I need to get back into stretching therapy, and hopefully you guys open a StretchMed here in Miami Beach. I'll be your first customer. But I do yoga, and with that, I can only get so much mobility. You really need someone else to take it to the next level. Like you can't get the mobility just yourself doing yoga poses. And even though I do that pretty much daily, I did notice my mobility, my flexibility got so much better from weekly stretching from a professional.
Yeah, when you think about what's happening to the body, right? We weren't designed to sit in chairs all day, drive cars all day. So once you don't use those ranges of motion, you lose all of the musculature that supports that range of motion. So first thing is increase range of motion, and by doing a lot of isometric contractions, getting you to get deeper in those ranges of motion, then that's where now when you train and you work out, you can increase strength in those ranges of motion, increasing lean body mass. And then you're actually, it's the first step of the aging process. Got to keep your range of motion, or you're just going to age super fast.
So we talked a lot about people and, the types of franchisees, but are there any particular cultural aspects or core values that you really look for in a franchisee?
Yeah, I think, right now I'm personally selecting all franchise owners because I get experience doing this. Is when you get the wrong one, it's a disaster. So it's kind of look for mindset. Are they a good learner? Do they want to develop people? Are they friendly? Do they like people? Because if you can't get along and build a team, you're not going to be a great franchise owner. So we want someone to come in and just be a great student, because what sometimes happens, you take successful executives, they then think they're going to come into your company and just rewrite the whole book because they were successful elsewhere. So sometimes the worst owners are the most successful elsewhere because they just can't quite grasp.
Not the boutique fitness industry, not studying like you did, jumping on planes all over the place, studying competition.
And part of it is we need to build a widget that someone else can run. And the more you tinker with it, the more you own it, and the more it becomes a mom and pop. So it's very important to maintain systems, maintain the structure, and then let's get the manager in there to run the business. And we come over the top of that manager. We just study the flow of leads, the conversion of leads or lack of conversion, and then find the areas of opportunity within the model. So I want the owners to run a StretchMed the way I'm going to run it. Right from day one, not 20 years into this. Right from day one, let's let's both be students of developing people. It's really hard because if everyone can do it, everyone would be multimillionaires, right? So let's work on that, and then get one right, and then when one's right, then it's work on 2, work on 3, work on 4, and then I envision we'll have some pretty big multi-unit owners, but slow and steady wins the race.
And I think it's nice that your interests are aligned, really fully aligned with the franchisee, as you are the owner of StretchMed, the franchise brand. It is your baby. You don't have some sales metric to hit, or you're going to get like let go, or private equity backed funds, or even publicly backed companies that they have quarterly reports and they need to show a certain number of franchise fees collected, royalty fees collected. So there's something to be said with that.
Yeah,
that you're under the same time frame as the franchisee. It's like a 10-year thing, not a quarterly or yearly.
Yeah, exactly. That 90-day, the public markets have such it's unfortunate, but once you get into the public markets and everything's 90-day periods, sell, you just got people, checkbooks everywhere. And I talked to a guy recently that went in to help a franchisee, and the owner was a pilot, never around. And we just wouldn't sell a franchise to a pilot, because it's like, if you physically can at least go in, like I would go into the very first store, and I would just get a stretch. And that was my weekly meeting with my manager. During a stretch, we would talk about the numbers of what's going on. It was awesome. But you can at least visit the store periodically for your first one. Now, if you have a handful and you have an operations manager running everything, that's good. But at the beginning, it's really important to get, because it's like getting a degree. You're learning how to run a business. It's like getting an MBA in franchising. Do it right, and then once you do that right, unlimited
you have
growth
the credibility to share insights based on experience when hiring that manager, hiring that assistant manager. If there's any changes, where you're not just reading from a playbook, but you've actually done it. You've seen how the inner workings are.
Exactly.
Brian, any concluding thoughts for prospective franchisees, those listening to Vetted Biz? Some of them are looking to get full-time into an opportunity, but we do have quite a lot of people that are looking for a semi-passive opportunity, which still allows them to keep their full-time work.
Yeah, I would say we're excited. I'm jumping on this podcast and a bunch of others because we're ready to scale StretchMed. We've kept it kind of under wraps just to really get unit economics tight. We started in Boston. We have 17 locations in Boston. We have a couple in Puerto Rico, and now I think we're in 5 states. So we've got a really good support team. And again, I'm personally going to be on the front end, picking territories, picking locations, negotiating leases. So at least until about 100 units, I'll be heavy duty. So people that get on board with StretchMed now, there's way greater value because we can't afford a failure. So when you're this small, you can't have a failure, period, even if we have to run the store. So it's a nice time to get in, where when you have 1,000 locations or 500 locations or multiple brands, you can kind of you can handle that, even though it's horrible at any point in time. So we're working really hard. And then a lot of people now, it's, first mover advantage. There's a lot of incredible territories that are open. And we know our competitors are, we know what they do. We still feel really, really confident. The very first StretchMed was 3/4 of a mile from, a major competitor. And we purposely, we were already playing it open there, and we knew they were opening. We heard they were opening. And then someone on my team was like, well, should we go somewhere else? And I was like, no, we gotta stick to the plan, because we can be successful, less than a mile away from a formidable competitor, then we've got something. So that's kind of what we did.
If you're opening up in a town that there's no competitors, it could be no competitors for a reason.
Exactly. Not enough demand for the service. So, and we spent a lot of time in demographics, which is cool. We have some awesome software. So we're going to show you where you live, what are the best markets around you, where the competitors are. And again, smaller, really lean and mean boutique studios that roughly, you only need 2 employees to reach positive cash flow. And that's kind of really nice. It's not like I need 12 part-time employees that I have to manage to try to make money. And you can keep your job. And we essentially do all the heavy lifting on that first store. So the way I like to explain it is, if you were going to open in Miami Beach, we say, hey, Patrick, we're really going to open your studio and you're along for the ride, because if we were to try to teach you this, it would be too much. It would be more work than us just doing it for you. So we'll even order all the material. We'll do it. We'll manage the contractor. We'll help you hire the contractor. We do the whole process from start to finish. And I'm personally nearing about 200 locations that I've opened across the last, 28 years. So you kind of figure it out after,
you have a gut,
after you do it a few hundred times.
Your gut, a feeling that you can feel if it's, if something's going right or not, that you might not be able to communicate, but with that type of experience, you're going to know.
Yeah. And it's super fun. And that's the other thing is we want to, love who we work with and for, and it's got to have fun. We love what we do. So I think that core value, we love what we do. It's really cool to make up a game and then play the game. And we want other cool entrepreneurs that are looking to create wealth. We're developing therapists. We're just really taking a personal trainer. That's the other cool thing. Great thing about stretching is everyone knows what it is. They know it's good for you. It's whether they do it at all or don't do it enough. And we're just hiring certified personal trainers, which are all over the place, teaching them 36 stretches, putting them in a private studio on it, with a table. Customer walks in, voila, there's the customer experience. And we just get out of the way, charging $75 for a 50-minute stretch, paying a therapist roughly $30, and there's your margin. And build a widget where you can be profitable on a very small number of customers, just in the event of their competition of them. And I think some of our competitors didn't stress test their model with competition. That was the issue. And I think, we talked about some big box fitness brands that they're now like, they just keep popping up, and there's some direct competitors. And it's like, anything that costs $500,000 to open, call me out. It's just too much.
I'm a big advocate, especially if you're a first-time business owner. Like, take baby steps, and then with time, you can decide to then sign that franchise agreement and open up multiple locations and invest significant capital. But I think at the entry of 150, there's a lot of people that can get into the game. Yeah,
I love that price point. And you had a question for those looking to franchise. Like, I have a lot of expertise around franchising, and that's exciting too. Any of your listeners that are looking to franchise, I would tell you, be a local celebrity first, master 1, 2, 3 locations, and really just open and flip until you get to 5 to 10. It's very easy to sell a turnkey business than it is to sell a new one. Get to 5 or 10, keep one corporate owned, then just franchise in non-registration states, get to 20, 30 units. And then once you're there, then move your way into California, Illinois, New York, and then slowly don't open one and then just register everywhere and just spray and pray, because you gotta kill yourself. Start and one of our boutique fitness brands, we waited until we had 30 units in Massachusetts before we left. So because then you really know what you're doing. You gotta get to the 5 or 10, keep it close to home, local celebrity, then you can expand it.
Brian, thanks so much for the insights. Cool. We'll be sure to include a link to StretchMed for those that are looking at a franchise. And I just wanted to thank you again. Appreciate being on the podcast.
Anytime, Patrick. Great talking to you.